Hey everybody, and welcome to the podcast Name Pending. I am Ralph, and I'm here today with.
Hi, I'm Lloyd Howell. Good to be here.
Immediately, I have things I want to get off my chest.
Okay.
So, I'm an online individual, and I like to think I'm a pretty self-aware guy.
Sure.
So I approach the idea of starting a podcast with a degree of trepidation. It's like, why me? And not because I'm self-conscious, because I think I'm a reasonably intelligent guy. I can string together a sentence, maybe even a few. But it's like broadcasting is not my passion. Like, why start a podcast? Especially when there's a bit of a stink around the idea. And like, look, I feel like you and me, at least you to me you're the most similarly online person to myself that I know.
You think so?
I think so. I mean, I don't have many friends.
Sure.
I have like 3.5.
3.5 friends.
Yeah. And I feel like you and I, we follow the same Twitter accounts. We listen to the same podcasts. We kind of use the same like depressed online language. We like keep up with the same things.
Sure. We've become entrapped by the same vocabulary and thought patterns.
Yes.
From being exposed
and I'm already sensing some resistance. I don't mean to lump you in with me. I'm not saying you're like me, but
What
I
are
feel
you
like
saying?
out of my very small, shallow pool of people that I know, you're most similar to me in your online participation, your online indulgences. So for that reason, you and I have entertained the idea of starting a podcast before.
We have.
It's crossed our minds very casually.
Of course.
You
go out, you have a couple beers, you think, why not? Why not us? We could do it. It's the easiest way to kind of create content.
Yeah.
To stamp your name on something.
That's our inebriated moonshot is a podcast.
Yeah.
Which is sad enough by itself. Yeah. But the thing is, like, so you and I have had this conversation before, and previously I'm like, well, is there really a reason to do it? But I had an epiphany this past week, and part of that epiphany, this is kind of the thesis for this episode to me, is that, like, the only thing more pathetic than starting a podcast is talking about a podcast and not actually doing it.
So this is self-preservation. This is us,
This just feels right.
It feels, it's better than the alternative.
Because it's like, if you have that inkling, if you have that itch, you might as well just fucking do it. You might as well be a person.
Sure.
But it's like, to talk about something as modest as starting a podcast and not doing it.
I mean, it feels very good to talk about it. That's the thing. Like
yeah.
Now I'm like, my voice is going to be recorded, and like I'm gonna, it's gonna be outside of my control. And I think that's the biggest impediment is like, I don't know, like putting your name to a voice and like having that voice be, cast out into a larger space. Not like anyone's going to listen to this fucking thing. Like this is,
Sure.
Drop in a very large bucket. But
which is fine with me, which I'm going to get to.
Of course. Oh, you have a list.
I do. I have a few bullet points.
Well, that's great. That's great. I mean, I like the idea of this experiment. It's, why not us?
I read this M+1 article. I sent it to you. We're not going to dwell on it. I don't have quotes drawn from it or anything.
Yeah, I read it.
But at one point early in the article, they compare podcasting unfavorably to blogging, which makes sense because podcasting, like blogging, it's designed so that it does not hold up under scrutiny. It's designed as something that is not supposed to be like parsed with a fine tooth comb. It's
Right.
vomitive. It's just like, this is what I'm thinking right now. You know, this is what I'm thinking in my blog. You know, it's unexamined. It's just like, you're telling on yourself. You're being like, I'm not trying too hard, but fuck it. You should consume what I'm saying anyway.
Right.
You know, that's like what a blog is. But at least with a blog, someone did sit down to like write the words.
Right.
And you have to like sit down and read those words to consume the blog. So it's not a perfect comparison. Like you can't do the dishes while reading a blog post, you know,
Sure.
as opposed to a podcast. So I do see that comparison, but I think the thing that is most similar to podcasting is pornography. And the reason I feel that way is that, you know, you and I, we went to film school.
Yes, we did.
I believe that we both have an appreciation for the arts. And the reason that I felt some hesitation before starting a podcast is because when I do something, I do consider like, okay, well, this is an object that I'm putting my name on it. It's going to be critically evaluated. You know, I want it to be worth something if I'm going to enter it into the public sphere. But that only makes sense when you're making something that is supposed to have aesthetic or intellectual value, you know, something that aspires to that at least. And like a podcast, here's another comparison, an advertisement. Like an advertisement may be entertaining, it may be well made, it may be funny, it may even in like a cheap way move you. But that's not really the point. Those are just like ornamental, those are trappings. The point of an advertisement is to sell you something. You know, this is kind of like why video games are not art. Like people can attach whatever they like to video games. So the point of a video game is that you're supposed to play. You're supposed to continue playing the video game. That's why it's not art. Whereas a work of art is just something, it's an expression, a pure expression that you're supposed to consume. You know?
Sure. Yeah, I see that. Like when you, even when you read an article or a blog post or something along those lines. I mean, if you're trying to, I don't know, like what a podcast is, and like you talked to me about this earlier, is like it is, you know, it is really just something to fill the time. Like it is,
Yes.
It is not something that is ever
More than fill the time. Whereas pornography, and you know, it's interesting. I mentioned film school. You know, I think a lot about filmmaking, but I think that, you know, pornography is not something that's supposed to be consumed in full. You may have a 10, 20, even 40-minute piece of pornography. You're not supposed to watch it from like front to back, you know?
No.
It's like you scan it, you find the moments that jump out at you, and you nut to those moments.
Oh boy.
But what makes it similar to film is that the best parts of pornography are these uncanny little moments that can't be written down in a script that you can't plan for. I believe that's true. Because like in a film, like the plot, a good plot will get you somewhere, but the plot is not the point. The plot is a clothesline, you know? The plot is a means to an end. The plot is something, it's a launch pad for an uncanny expression on an actor's face, or a certain image, or something that happens in the moment with these characters, you know? What's the term? What is it? Like the French word, like frisson or something, you know?
Coup de foudre, maybe?
I don't know what that is.
Well.
But it's an uncanny little thing that can't be pigeonholed verbally.
Sure.
That's like, those are the most beautiful moments in movies. And similarly, those are the most cum-inducing moments in pornography, in my opinion. You know? Because it's quite boring just watching someone fuck for like 40 minutes, you know? But it's like, I don't know, maybe the person getting fucked, something they say, an awkwardly flat line reading. Maybe they sneeze, but then try to like resume what they're doing as if it didn't happen. It's like the weird, unpredictable little thing. Similar to filmmaking, like those are the magic moments that get you there.
Right. Well, I mean, you know, a film is also incredibly curated, whereas a podcast is just all of the raw material, pretty much. Unless we're talking about, you know, one of those expertly produced ones with like a whole staff and everything. Like, you know, a film is you know,
That was more of a
ideally
tangent.
Well,
Yeah.
well, that's great. That's great then. All right,
My point
all right,
is to be
of
a
course.
good porn or to be an active porn actor, you don't have to have a special something. Like the best porn stars do, and they like induce those moments. Like they lend themselves to those moments. But like to be a capable porn actor, you have to, you know, decide that this is what you're going to do. You commit to it. There's a degree of confidence, and you're like just like borderline, like acceptably conventionally attractive. And with podcasters, it's like, all right, I'm going to carry this equipment from my place of work home. I'm going to set it up, you know, I'm going to drink while I'm doing it. I'm going to make it happen. You know, I'm going to invite my friend over. I'm putting in the time to do that, you know, and I'm confident enough that I am going to do it. Mm-hmm. But instead of being borderline conventionally attractive, I'm borderline listenable.
Sure.
As opposed to attractive.
Yeah.
You know? And you and I'm not saying we're volcanoes of charisma,
No.
but the bar is pretty fucking low.
Yes, for sure. For sure.
As is the bar for what people will beat off to.
Well,
So the point I'm driving towards is a podcast doesn't have to be good. There is no good.
there is no good podcast.
There is no good. Again, like a commercial, you can listen to a podcast and it's like, oh no, podcasts are good. I learned a lot about the fucking Trans-Pacific Partnership.
Well, because somebody will like find the best bits and like make a
No.
you know like a typography video. They'll you know. And
No, like
then
this
the
is why
podcast
podcasts
will-
are actually good.
Yeah.
I'm rejecting that conceptually.
Okay.
Because yes, this is why I did the commercial comparison. Yes, a podcast, you can learn something from it. It can be like, oh, I learned something about the TPP. I learned something about Joy Division. Yes, you can learn something from it. You can learn something about Chester A. Arthur. It can be funny. It could be compelling. But that's not its primary focus. A commercial can do those things too, but that's not the point of a commercial. That's not its spine. That's not its soul. The point of a commercial is to sell you on something. The point of a piece of pornography is for you to get off. The point of a podcast is just for you to kind of ambiently have voices that kind of console you as you go about your day because you're not comfortable enough to just countenance silence.
That's very grim. That's very grim. I think it's mostly accurate. I think. I don't
Is it
know.
grim?
Oh, I think it is. I think it is for sure. You know, I'm not going to try to make some statement about society here, but I think.
By all means.
No, I refuse to. That's not why we're here. Like this is. You know, if we're exploring the epistemology of podcasts, like, what was the first podcast you ever listened to, Ralph? Do you remember?
I don't know if I remember.
No, I think mine was Radiolab. That was
What is that?
Radiolab. It's on NPR. It's very produced. They have, you know, fun audio effects, especially earlier on. But two hosts, and they would, you know, it's exhaustively researched. It's more like a news segment than anything else. But, you know, lasts for 45 minutes, lasts for an hour, and they kind of do a deep dive. They have interviews. They have all this stuff, but it's more like listening to a movie than anything else.
Uh-huh.
That was like as
Very
far as I can
deliberately
remember-
trying to make it good kind of podcast.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And you know, you compare something like that to I don't know. I'm not gonna
Let's not
name any
name check too
podcasts.
many other
Yeah,
podcasts.
we don't have to do that.
Let's not remind people of better podcasts.
I mean, what would you say the number of podcasts that you regularly engage with is? Like how many?
Well, here's the thing. I'll put it this way. I listen to a lot of podcasts. There's maybe half a dozen podcasts that I like.
Okay.
I listen to a lot that I don't really care for, but it's like a compromise. It's like, well, I'm not going to just listen to my thoughts or read on the subway, so I'm going to listen to this. But there's like 6 that I actually like, and I like look forward to listening to them, which sounds bleak enough to say out loud. But like, even when I hear what you're saying, like even when I listen, so this is another interesting thing that article pointed out. Podcasts are the only medium that are designed to be listened to by a single person, and that's it.
Right. I remember that part.
You know, because it's like movies, ideally you watch them with a crowd. Music, you know, whatever, but you can listen to music with other people. Even a book, I would say ideally you consume a book alone, but you at least have the option of reading it aloud to other people, you know?
Sure.
But a podcast, if you were to listen to a podcast with a group, you would seem fucking insane. Like you're sitting down, like, first of all, if you're listening, you already have a friend. So it's like you have a friend, but you're choosing to sit down and listen to this other group that is simulating company with company. Why aren't you just being a person? So like that kind of gives away the game. It's like, well, why? That's kind of bleak. And even when I listen to the podcasts that I like the most, because either I think they're funny, they make me laugh, or I think they're compelling, or they teach me something about movies or politics, if I listen to too much in a row, there is this feeling of like, I can't help but feel like on some level, I'm tacitly consenting to exist in a world in which I'm allowing my every human desire to just be superficially pacified by like low calorie, flippant media. And instead of having genuine human interaction, I just have this abstract of human interaction with people who talk a similar enough language to me, and I find them likable, but they reside in this ineffable digital realm, and they're of course not my friends. They don't even know me, and I don't know them, and it's just kind of this like absurd like masturbatory exercise.
But it is kind of a stand-in for. Do you consider it a stand-in for like talking to friends?
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. No, but I mean, like, why do you know?
I'm saying
like
that's its primary purpose.
Like you do have some friends, like you do have regular social interaction, but I don't know if you have this experience, but like usually when I listen to podcasts, I'm like I'm on the subway, like I am in the middle of doing something else, and I will immediately.
Ideally,
I will immediately like lose focus on the podcast.
Yes.
Like I will start focusing on something else.
No, of course. The point of a podcast is to be ignored.
Sure.
I agree with that. And no, I see what you're saying. Like, you know, like, yeah, is it so terrible to have just kind of in some way vaguely interesting conversation on your commute to work? Like, no, it's not. But I'm talking about like, you know, binging podcast, which through binging you kind of get to like the fundamentals of what they really are, which you said earlier, like that's what makes them grim. But, you know, what's so grim about that? Because here's how I feel.
Okay.
It's only grim. Like I know this woman that I follow on Instagram, and she what?
Oh, no. Please go on.
I follow many women. Many follow me on Instagram.
Of course.
If you were to do the math, I think it would be mostly gals.
Mostly gals.
Not bragging. Just
no. That's good.
Point is, I follow this girl on Instagram, and she always seems to be going on trips. I don't know how everyone's always going on trips.
Sure.
I don't get that. But she has this like gaggle of friends from birth. She was homeschooled, which is a whole other story.
Right.
But she has like this gaggle of friends, and her Instagram posts are always like those multi-posts where you swipe past the multiple pictures, and it's always the same like lumpen oblong just menagerie of grotesques that she hangs around with. But it's like in different places, like, oh, now I'm in Scotland, now I'm in New Orleans. And it's like, that's fine, but it's like, that's the thing. Like people who's like, you know, you're like, oh, that's grim. Why listen to podcasts all day? That's a shoddy substitute for being a person. And, let's extend this to social media. People say like, oh my God, people used to be people. But now, instead of being a person, you're online. You post pictures of this and that. It's a digital, cheap simulation of life. I'd say that's not the case. I say what social media does is that it creates the illusion that you're supposed to have this more active social life. See, here's the thing. This is something that I've struggled with in my life. Maybe you have too, where, as you said, I've had a group of friends. I always have a few friends. And I always have this, I used to have this feeling where it's like, well, me and my friends, we're supposed to get together. We're supposed to do things together. We're supposed to like make memories and do things and be people. And my life is supposed to be like this movie with a story. And I would do that and I would make the effort. But every time I do that, something about it felt contrived, hollow, not quite right, awkward. And part of the epiphany I had relating to what I said earlier about why we should start this podcast is that no, wrong, false. That's not how you're supposed to live. That's a fallacy. What social media does is that it peddles the idea that your life should be that, but no. Look, you're born and you have your first family. It's your parents, and that's your world. But gradually you outgrow your parents, right? And then you start your second family that you curate yourself, which is your friends. But what a lot of people, perhaps particularly millennials, what they don't appreciate is that you outgrow that too. And that life is solitary. And that this stuff like we need to go on trips, we need to go to we need to have bar trivia, we need to go to Scotland, we have to go to New Orleans.
I mean, but like...
That's a fallacy. No,
you
it's
gotta
Lloyd, it's wrong. You're not supposed to. It's okay to not feel that anymore. What social media does is that you're big into Marxism. You post about labor all day on social media. This is materialist. Social media propagates the myth that you're supposed to go out. What happens when you go to Scotland? What happens when you go to a place together with friends? You're spending money, all right? It's a fallacy. You're not supposed to do that. You're not supposed to have social outings with a group of people when you get to your late 20s. You're not supposed to. It's okay to outgrow that. That's why it feels so dim, so hollow, so ineffectual. But what social media does is that it perpetrates that myth. And so what you're supposed to do is, look, you become an adult, you get someone that is your romantic other. You form a third family with children or not, someone else. You have a couple friends, fine, sure, but you're not supposed to be this outgoing, consistently social animal. But yeah, you still have that pang. But how do you sate that? With podcasts. You listen to podcasts to dull that impulse. What do you say to that? I'm waiting. I'm waiting.
Oh boy. Well,
you seem distressed by what I'm saying.
Well, no, it's just, you're monologuing like you prepared for this. Like you have
I gave it some thought.
You have a series of
I gave it some
things
thought.
that you want to say. That's fine.
That offends you.
No. I think when we conceived of this, I figured that the podcast would have a more conversational tone. And listen.
You're upset that You're upset that I had some talking points that I marinated in my head.
No, I'm not upset. I just think we haven't quite found our candor yet. But I mean, to what you were saying,
going well, but.
No, it's going great, Ralph. Like this is. I'm
just expressing an opinion.
No, of course. I mean, I think what
the floor is yours.
Oh boy. Well,
You what? Dead air.
No, dead air. I know. I think
I'm saying podcasts are good. Is that so controversial?
I don't think they're good. I think they are.
Go on.
I think silence is useful. I think there is a real value to kind of
see. Here's the difference between you and me, folks, listeners. Lloyd, I'm looking at him right now. If I had to describe him, I'd say he looks like a muscular scarecrow. He's a good guy. Look, he takes care of himself. You have a little garden that you tend to, you know. You think about things. You care about causes. You have he, him in your Twitter bio, you know.
This fucking guy.
You take your fucking karate class, you know. You have a lot more to lose than me. It makes your default is to kind of evaluate yourself. And I'm not saying I don't have that, but me, my life is nothing. So my life is crying out to me like, a podcast? Let's do it. Give it to me, you know? But like you kind of have that kind of like self-conscious impulse where it's like, oh, am I going to be this guy who creates a podcast? Dragon Ball Z. Are you familiar with Dragon?
It's not really about like not wanting to create a podcast, but like I am aware of this side of you, you know, like you're a desperately bleak man, Ralph. Like you.
How do you mean that?
Well, I just every. You know, you take no joy in life. You seem
That's not true at all.
Really? Like
I take a lot of joy.
Okay.
Through podcasts, which is why I wanted to spread that joy.
Sure.
But look, we seem to agree on podcasts, but where we seem to disagree.
Do we disagree? Do we agree on podcasts though?
We agree on what they are. We disagree on whether that conclusion is positive or negative. You know? Because I think I described, you know, what podcasts are like, and you're like, that's grim. That sounds bad. You said yourself, look, I think podcasts are bad. Great to say on your inaugural podcast episode.
Oof. I'm really making friends with the podcast connoisseurs out there.
But, and I hear what you're saying, but I feel like I'm a level beyond that, you know? And I think, yeah, and I
level
think,
beyond.
I think that just has to do with who I am, because like I'm content to just be. I am become content. All right, boy. I am become content. I am content to just be energy that is dispersed across the surface of the matrix. Fine, good. Let's tango. Plug me in. You know, but because what I was trying to say. When I was complimenting you, by the way, before you called me a desperately bleak person in turn.
That's not an insult, Ralph.
Is that you're more of a person than me. You have more at stake.
So you're okay.
So perhaps
you're saying you're more than a
is
person.
A bleak trade. But it's like, here's the thing. Dragon Ball Z.
Oh boy.
Have you ever watched it?
I've seen clips.
All right, so you're not familiar. I'm not going to recap the whole series for the listeners, but okay, the Android saga, you know, Goku. No, Dan, I want you to listen.
I'm listening.
This is going to come back around. So, you know, future Trunks comes from the future to warn Goku that Dr. Gero is going to come and try and like destroy Earth with his androids. And in the future, they destroy the world because Goku falls ill. He has a heart disease. He can't defeat the androids. So future Trunks gives Goku medication. He gives him an antidote for the heart disease. Flash forward, they're fighting the androids. Goku is losing. Why? Gohan explains Goku stopped taking his heart medication because he started feeling better. He's like, I don't need it anymore. Like, folks, you take your antibiotics all the way through. You don't stop when you start feeling better. Like the illness may still be recessed, but anyway, he's losing. The android's kicking his ass. Who comes to his rescue? Vegeta, the anti-hero, the guy with like the kind of drastic widow's peak, the guy who has like kind of like an uneasy alliance with the rest of the Z fighters. He saves Goku. He destroys Android 19, and then he turns Super Saiyan. He's only the third character to turn Super Saiyan after Goku and future Trunks. And Krillin says, but I thought you have to be pure of heart to become Super Saiyan. And what does Vegeta say? He says, "My heart is pure, pure evil." So, when someone says to me, "Oh, you want to be another straight white guy in Brooklyn who starts a podcast?" To that I say, yes, because that is me. I embrace that. Why not embrace it? Why not embrace it?
I mean, why embrace it though?
Because that's who you are. That's who I am.
That's who you are. I mean,
Look, let me put it this way. If you don't start a podcast, you're a fucking coward. All right? If you listen to a podcast and you don't start one, you're a fucking coward. That's how I feel. All right? I'm not going to live in a state of self-apology. Because look, everyone who would say that to you, no one's going to say it to me because I don't know anybody. But someone may say to you like, "Oh, you want to start a blah, 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 blah." Like secretly they're going like, "I wish someone would ask me to start a podcast. Oh, it could be about something. I know about hockey or music." No, you don't. You're a fucking coward. And that's why you're never going to start a podcast. That's why no one's ever going to ask you because you don't have any fucking courage. All right?
end up languishing. Like they're not.
That's not the point.
It is kind of the point. Like it is. I don't know.
I'm not talking about the result. I'm talking about the fucking ride.
The act of podcasting, of taking this step and.
What about
you
it?
know, dehumanizing yourself and facing unto content.
No, see, that's where you and I differ. I don't see it as dehumanizing. Again, that's the difference between you and me. Like, I see this for you
this
as
this is directly commodifying our voices and personalities as dehumanizing. There's no way it's not.
Well, then how is any form of expression not dehumanizing by that metric?
Well, this is very self-consciously like meaningless. Like it is very self-consciously.
But that's
like,
okay. I'm arguing it's okay that it's meaningless. I'm saying embrace the void. Sorry, we got some traffic crossing by.
We're gonna pick those up. Yeah.
I mean, look, I feel like this for you. Here's the difference between me and you.
Tell me again, Ralph. What's the difference between you and me? Let's do it for the fifth time.
This is a compliment. I feel like this for you. You're like, I'm gonna fasten my boots and go. A plan is a plan. I guess I'm gonna go meet up with Ralph. He already set up the equipment.
Yeah, I already set it up. That's true.
I feel like for you, this is a dark new low because you're more of a person. But for me, this is like a beautiful new adventure. Hold on, another car. I hate those fucking motorcycles. For me, this is a beautiful new adventure because like I wasn't going to do anything tonight. I was going to get drunk and look at the walls. But it's like I'm making a podcast.
Yeah, man.
I'm participating in society. It's a beautiful thing. And look, you know, what you diagnose as the bleakness of podcasting, I don't disagree with. But I'm saying like, that's the fucking way of the world, baby. Let's tango. Plug me in. There's this.
I hate that.
There's this.
That's.
What are you gonna do? Not do it? I like it.
I don't know.
I like it. There's this Instagram. There's this Instagram model I follow. I'm not gonna say her name. She recently started a YouTube channel where she. It's not a cooking channel per se. She just goes to restaurants in LA and eats food there and reacts. You know.
Sure.
And relatedly. Lately, I've been reading this this book about suicide. I forget the author, but it's just called Suicide. And an interesting point he makes early on is that, you know, how most people think about suicide is that it's a disease. You know, it's a mental illness. You only commit suicide if you're mentally ill. But what he argues is that everyone has a suicidal person inside of them, you know?
I've heard of this.
Yeah. He says that or he co-signs the theory that it's not a matter of like the fact that you would even conceive of killing yourself makes you mentally ill. It's that everyone has the potential to do that. It just depends what conditions they're under, because it's actually just like an accident of evolutionary development. It's like, because we're tribal creatures. This relates to why we want to listen to podcasts. You know, we're social beings. We're the only animal that one has a sense of self-worth, and also we derive that worth from how other people think about us.
I don't think we want to listen to podcasts. I think we do listen to podcasts because it's the best option available to us.
Sure, yes. No, that's what I mean. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So.
No, I'm saying it's a substitute for human interaction.
Right.
I'm not disagreeing with that. We're in agreement.
Well, okay.
But what I'm saying is that, you know, what he's arguing is that whenever someone wants to kill themselves, it's because to some degree they feel like they've done a disservice to the tribe. It's like, I've done something so horrible, I'm reflecting shittily on the tribe. I'm doing a disservice to my family members or my friends or just humanity at large. That's why I want to kill myself. You know, which I think is a very compelling theory. And honestly, I don't find it disturbing. I actually find it kind of relieving because it's like, yeah, I mean, like, just because something's natural doesn't mean it's bad. Like, people don't like it because it's like, oh, that says that suicide is natural. Well, like, a lot of things are not. Like, natural is a construct. That doesn't, you know, whatever. Like, that's to me is a comforting way of looking at it. But my point is that, you know, a lot of it is tied up in the idea of like, am I propagating the species, or am I coupling up with other people? So it's like frustrated sexual desire can drive you to a lot of crazy ends. And you know, this Instagram model, I have a good relationship with my parents. Do you have a good relationship with your parents?
Sure.
You know, I have a good relationship with my dad. You've met my dad.
I have.
You know? No.
He's a, you know, nice guy.
He is.
Nice guy.
No animosity there. We're buddies. We have a nice relationship.
That's nice.
I would kill him to have sex with his Instagram model. You know? And it wouldn't be worth it. And then right after, I'd be like, I miss Pops. I miss my dad. I miss the sound of his laughter. I wish we had more time before I traded his life. Before I traded his life for one roll in the hay with this Instagram model. It seems absurd in retrospect. This is my dad. He's one of the pivotal figures in my life. This is such an error, but I would still do it even knowing that.
No, of course you wouldn't.
Because I'm an introspective person.
That's a ridiculous thing to say. Of course you wouldn't do
my
that.
Point is she makes this cooking show.
Okay. Tell me about the cooking show, Ralph. I can't wait to hear about this cooking show.
And it's terrible.
So she goes to Los Angeles. She goes to restaurants. She sits down.
It's really quite bad.
Is it okay?
And I like cooking shows.
Paint a picture for me. Like, okay,
so it's like
I click on the video.
It's just her friend.
Is there an intro? Do they have like a fun intro?
No. See, Lloyd and I have a background in content, so we can we have a special eye for these things. No, it's terrible. It's all shot on an iPhone. Like either her friend or her sister shoots it, and it's just like edited sloppily. The sound is awful. It's bad. But I watch it and I'm like, this is good. Everyone should do this. Everyone should just put their life fucking online. I wish everyone had a podcast. I wish the fucking cashier down at the food town had a fucking podcast. I can watch it and be like, oh, what does she have to say for 16 hours? I wish that when you match with someone on Tinder, it shows you their podcast and you can listen to, oh, this guy works at H&R Block. What's he saying for 20 hours? Like, why not? Embrace it. Do it. Your rebellion means nothing. Why resist?
Are you on Tinder? Are you on the apps?
I'm on OkCupid and Hinge.
Why those two?
I don't know.
And
folks,
do you enjoy the experience of swiping of the search? Do you enjoy the?
No, I can't say that I do.
You don't?
I mean, I don't dislike it, but it's just kind of a passive activity. Yeah. Does this relate to podcasting?
I think it does. I mean, it's a
virtual intermediary.
Well, sure.
Yeah.
Sure. It's one of the suite of products that are offered to us.
This is very true, Dan.
You know, it's all commodified, Ralph. It's all
I agree.
Offered up on a silver platter. They want you to fucking swipe. You know, they want you to swipe. They want you to listen. They want you to do both at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't really concentrate on either, and your experience is dulled. It's
I just kind of think it's a funny bit to have a podcast in my wake when I die. you know, because like I consume a lot of this stuff. Like it's funny, like when someone abruptly dies, it's interesting to look at like the media they left in their wake. So if I were to die abruptly and people would be like, oh, apparently he had a fucking podcast with, I can't suss it out, Lloyd or but like there's a podcast and there's
shouldn't have muddied the fucking waters here.
There's all these episodes and it's like, oh God, I guess we should have foreseen this. I don't know, but I just like that. I think about that a lot. I think about that as like, I think a lot in terms of like what would be a like kind of very curious for the few people who would like read to the third segment of my Wikipedia page, like, apparently let me listen to this. Like, oh, this is, God, I don't know about that. Yeah. I think a lot in those terms.
Sure. You're imagining scenes.
My point is that...
What are you saying? Like, what's the...
I'm saying embrace the void.
Embrace...
It's okay to waste your life. That's what I'm saying. It's okay. Don't feel pressured by fucking Instagram posts and bullshit. Sit around. Listen to podcasts. Listen to us. And if you're gonna, don't shit on us for doing that. If you encountered in the street, he would give you the fucking shirt off his back. And then he would tweet something like,
"Oh, see, this worries me, man. Like,
what?
You can't say my last name. Like,
I'm sorry, I forgot about that. That occurred to me just as I said it. I'll bleep it out. We'll bleep it out.
Okay. Like,
I'm sorry. I'm getting caught up in the moment. You expect me to absorb these things last minute?
Well,
it'll
ideally,
be bleeped. It'll be bleeped. It'll be bleeped. It'll be bleeped. Point is, he would give you the. Hold on, I have to. He would give you the shirt off his back.
You're killing me, Ralph.
And then he would tweet something like, "Oh, old Lloyd is down one shirt again." My impression of you is very Reagan. I don't know why.
It's awful. What is it? Was Reagan tall? Was he a tall guy?
I think he was pretty tall, yeah.
Oh, fuck.
How tall are you?
6'3".
Oh, so we're like the same height.
Yeah. Did you have an early growth spurt? I guess
I don't really remember.
No.
I feel like as long as I can remember, I've been tall, but I've blacked out a lot of my early childhood.
Yeah.
Or I don't know if I blacked it out. I don't remember very much of it.
Sure. Neither do I. It's
Is
good
that
to
true?
be tall.
Because I feel like that's unusual. I feel like a lot of people have a lot of like early life
remember
memories.
specific memories about my early childhood.
You know what my earliest memory is?
What's that?
I don't know how much of this I confabulated, but this is what I chalk up to my earliest memory. So it's like, you know how like in Queens, people will have like a concrete backyard, like a concrete patio. Not just Queens, obviously, but this is where it took place. So I guess that's what I associate it with. But so like there's like a family outing, a barbecue in like this concrete patio because I was born in Queens and quickly moved to Long Island when I was like 4 or whatever. But with my original family, we're in this concrete patio. And they had like one of those like plastic slides, right? Like the plastic, like orange and blue, like chunky play
like
sets.
Thick plastic.
Yeah. Like the play sets, yeah. And I'm very little, and the way I remember it is just like a POV shot. I'm scaling the steps. I'm walking up them. I reach the very top before the slide, the blue slide, scaling the orange steps, and before I like step up onto the top, I fall and just like painfully graze every plastic step on the way down. Just I fall down against the steps. I don't get to go on the slide, and I start crying, and that's when it cuts to black. That's my earliest memory.
Wow.
Oof. That's my earliest memory.
Huh. Well,
I don't know if it's an invention again, but what's your earliest?
Well, it is a. It's a dream actually, like a series of.
Remembering
dancing.
a dream?
Yeah.
Does that count as an earliest memory?
I think so.
Okay.
I think so.
So to be clear, this is your remembering a dream is your
Yeah.
earliest. Okay, go on.
Yeah. And it was it was the Rite of Spring was playing. Do you know the Rite of Spring?
I don't know what that is.
Okay, it's a very menacing piece of classical music.
No, of course.
Yeah, and
This is your earliest memory that you have the classical music.
I'm serious. Like it was. Wait,
hold on. Do it again.
So it's like vum 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 vum, and it kind of like progresses, and it gets like.
Okay, so that's like Looney Tunes famous. No.
I mean, it was most famous for. No. Like this.
I know it's not the
caused-
same, but
I mean, potentially it was used in cartoons at some point, but like it was originally famous for like causing, fainting and.
wow, really?
And I think riots.
Why would this permeate your
originally
childhood
performed.
brain, though? If it's not.
I think it's in Fantasia. I think it's in that
Okay,
Disney.
Dan,
that
I said
Disney movie,
Looney Tunes.
Fantasia.
That's comparable. That's what I'm saying. It's
Okay.
famous enough that it would score an early cartoon.
I mean, it was the Rite
That's
of
the
Spring.
point I was
though.
trying to make.
It wasn't like what was in my dream was not a Disney cartoon. It was a.
I know,
a
but my
series
point
of-
was that it's a famous enough piece of classical music at the time. It's a ubiquitous enough piece that it would be in Fantasia. Or
Yes, like you've heard this. You've absolutely heard this piece of
yeah,
music.
that's what I was trying to say.
Okay.
I'm conflict averse. But go on. I feel like it would aid the recalling if you were to hum a little bit of it, though. instead of just-
No. But
Come on, tell the story.
No. You know, the people can kind of hit
He
that
pointed
little,
it out. But
that 15-second rewind button. They can hit that a couple of times. They can hear it again. But it was a
wouldn't make you do that work,
building
please.
a building fire was the content of the dream. But it was
what do you mean a building fire?
like a fire kind of springing up from underbrush. But it was very abstracted, and you know. I couldn't really tell you how old I was, but I was probably like 2 or 3. I was
So it was
like,
just fire?
yeah.
So your
Fire
earliest
and
memory
music.
is just fire getting bigger.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, the way I see this podcast is that I am just the kindling for the fire that is.
Oh,
I really mean this. I mean this. Because he's
Ralph.
he's. Oh, fuck. I keep forgetting. I'm going to bleep it.
Okay.
I'm going to bleep it. I'm just used to calling you that.
okay.
It's going to
You
all be bleeped.
gotta stop doing that.
It's going to all be bleeped. It's going to all be bleeped.
I swear to God, if you don't like.
I'm going to. I'm going to
All right.
send you a copy of the episode before I publish it.
All right.
Lloyd. And I want to reiterate a few key points from this episode. 1, it's more pathetic to talk about a podcast and not do it than doing it. 2, I don't care who you are. If you don't start a podcast, you're a fucking coward. And 3, I don't care about me. You talk shit on Lloyd about starting a podcast. Like, oh, what do you call a group of white men a podcast? Say that about me. You say that about Lloyd, I will kill you.
Oh.
I will track you down and I will kill you. How fucking dare you? This is a good man.
Oh.
And I just wanted to make that clear.
Okay. How long have we been recording now? How long have we been going? 51 minutes. Are you kidding me? Wow.
You expected longer?
The time went by so quickly.
We have it in our power.
I thought it was half an hour. That was that went by like that. How about that? First podcast ever.
That's right. And look, folks, there was a little conflict here. You're probably wondering, like, well, this is the first episode. You think these guys would be on the same page? Why was there, like, weird, like, tetchy interludes? Folks, that's because it's authentic. All right?
Yeah. Very authentic.
All right? Yeah. I didn't even get to all the fucking bullet points on my crumpled piece of paper.
You can save them for next time.
That's
you know?
right. That's right.
Or you could, do we need the bullet points?
That's, you're
Do we need
kinda,
the bullet points?
You know what, Dan? I don't appreciate giving the listeners a peek behind the curtain. I'm just trying to make sure this engine runs smoothly.
I mean, I feel like, this warrants some more discussion. We've
Unbelievable.
We've things.
Unbelievable.
There's trouble in paradise, folks.
First ep, there's already a rift. Many
People-
podcasts have a list of things they're going to discuss on a piece of paper.
They do, but you specifically told me, for the purposes of this podcast, that we were
Unbelievable
simply
that
going
he's
to talk.
divulging this.
We were simply going to talk, you know, and I show up here, and this guy, he's got it locked and loaded.
I had
He's got
some
it.
locked and loaded. I was worried we were just going to be mumbling. I didn't know
It
how
would have
prepared
been
you
something
were.
else.
I didn't
It
know
would
how
have been
prepared you
something
were.
else. I was prepared.
So now you're disowning
I was-
this
I'm
near hour of
saying
content.
I'm not saying I'm disowning the content, Ralph. I'm saying you sold me a bill of goods.
It's the first episode. I thought maybe put a little elbow grease into it.
Put a little elbow grease.
We don't have the fucking swing of things. So yeah, I have a few bullet points I want to address. And he's full of shit, folks. I sent him an article that he read that he knew was going to be the premise of this episode. So the fact that he's like, I thought we were just going to fucking raw dog it, dog, and just fucking freestyle. Not the case. He knew. But he was offended, intimidated by my professionalism, which I resent. But in a way, it kind of just makes me admire you more.
All right. I think that just about does it for episode
I think
1.
it does too. We'll have a title soon, folks.
Oh, boy.
And
All right.
Lloyd, always a pleasure.
We'll see you next time. Thanks, Ralph.
Yeah.